Hi guys, good evening to everybody. So we talked about the respiratory system and the two, the transport of oxygen by hemoglobin. How does hemoglobin behave under different conditions? I represented just actually about the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve also. And in the curve I explained already. So when the concentration of carbon dioxide increases, or when the hydrogen ion concentration increases, ultimately you know that one hemoglobin is loosely binding with oxygen. That is why you see that one, that is the curve is always shifting towards the right. And similarly, if you're taking the temperature, at high temperature also you know that one oxyhemoglobin or the hemoglobin is loosely binding with oxygen. That's why the curve is shifted towards the right side. And if you have a decreased hydrogen ion concentration or low acidity, a decrease in temperature, decrease in carbon dioxide concentration, all just shifting the curve towards the upper side or towards the left. Same is the case also with reference to the temperature. So regarding this aspect, I would like to say one thing, what is called Bohr effect. Bohr effect. What is Bohr effect? So increase in hydrogen ion concentration, that is when you have concentration of hydrogen increases, we have high acidity but low pH decreases but the acidity increases. An increase in temperature all normally causes a decrease in oxyhemoglobin formation, or just decreases the binding capacity of hemoglobin with oxygen. That is called Bohr effect. Similarly, decrease in temperature, decrease in hydrogen ion concentration that results in low acidity or increase in pH. So all these things normally favoring the dissociation, actually favoring what is called the hemoglobin to bind with oxygen more and more. This is what we can say the Bohr effect. That is the hydrogen ion concentration as well as the temperature. Normally both either increase or decrease what is called the oxyhemoglobin formation. So at low acidity, just normally we have the hemoglobin is readily binding with oxygen. At high acidity, it loses its binding capacity with what is called oxygen. That is why oxygen being dissociated at the tissue level. And also the same one with reference to temperature. So increase in temperature, increase in what is called acidity, normally favoring the dissociation of hemoglobin and just preventing or decreasing the hemoglobin binding capacity with oxygen. So the reverse is the case, just when you have the low temperature and also low acidity. This is what we can say Bohr effect. So Bohr effect is always related to P50 value. P50 value, just one value, what we call this one P50. So it refers to normally when the high acidity, when the high temperature, we have also the P50 value just rises. P50 value is nothing but actually the value of partial pressure of oxygen, value of partial pressure of oxygen, at which 50% saturation or 50% hemoglobin is saturated with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. That is called as a 50 value. This value is also just normally rises when we have the curve is moving towards or shifting towards what is called the right side, where you have high acidity and high temperature. This is with the reference to what is called oxygen transport. That is the. So now let's pass on to another gas, the transport of carbon dioxide, how far it is being transported. And when compared to oxygen, the transport of carbon dioxide by the blood is much easier. This depends on one of the factors, one of the three factors what I mentioned earlier, the solubility factor. So the concentration gradient and partial pressure, the solubility of gases, and also the thickness of the membranes. These are all the three responsible for actually making either the diffusion of gases taking place or not, or the gases being transported in normal way or not. So normally transport of carbon dioxide by blood is much easier because carbon dioxide is much soluble in water than oxygen. So nearly actually the solubility power is nearly 20 to 25 times, 20 to 25 times higher than that of what is called oxygen. That is why it's being transported much easier than what is called oxygen. And if you are actually considering the rate of transport of the gases, nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by the RBCs, the remaining alone being transported by the plasma. 20 to 25% RBCs and remaining by means of plasma. So hemoglobin is also acting as a carrier in the transport of carbon dioxide. In that manner, it is acting as a buffer. Hemoglobin is acting as a buffer in carbon dioxide transport. So it is normally maintaining the pH while the dissociation of the carbonic acid, the one which is formed by the union of water and carbon dioxide formed in the blood or plasma, and which dissociates into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. The newly arrived hydrogen ions, because of the dissociation of carbonic acid, being normally just buffered by hemoglobin by accepting the hydrogen to form reduced so-called reduced hemoglobin. So in that manner, hemoglobin is acting as a buffer, buffering the newly arrived hydrogen ions, the one which is formed because of the dissociation of the carbonic acid, the one which is formed because of the union of carbon dioxide and water in the blood or in the plasma or in the RBC. So anyway, RBC is also taking part in the transport of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. So 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported by the RBCs. Now, so what are the different ways the carbon dioxide being transported? Major share of carbon dioxide, nearly 70% of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonate, either sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate, but mostly sodium bicarbonate in the plasma. So 70% of carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate. We'll say half. And nearly 7% of carbon dioxide is carried in dissolved state as carbonic acid. Dissolved state as carbonic acid, the one which is formed by dissolving carbon dioxide in water. So nearly 7%, least percentage of carbon dioxide is also transported in dissolved state as carbonic acid. And nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is carried by hemoglobin as carbaminohemoglobin. See that one, the hemoglobin consists of the heme part plus globin part. The globin has nearly 586 amino acids. Each amino acid has a carboxyl group and an amino group. So if we're taking the hemoglobin amino group, so I'm taking in a simple manner, HB and H2, the amino group, hemoglobin amino group. And now the carbon dioxide combines with this amino group. I'm taking a simple manner. See, hemoglobin, it has what is called the amino group. Nearly just we have 586 amino acids, all the amino acids have the amino group, either one or two. And it combines with the carbon dioxide to form what is called the carbamino compound. This is a carbamino compound by which carbon dioxide is transported. So hemoglobin amino group, just actually the globin part, the protein contains amino group which combines with carbon dioxide and which is being transported as carbaminohemoglobin. So 7% is normally transported in dissolved state as carbonic acid like this. For example, water plus carbon dioxide to form carbonic acid. So nearly 7% being transported in this manner. And nearly just 20 to 25% is transported as carbaminohemoglobin. And major amount of carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate, nearly about 70%. Nearly about 70%. So anyway, carbon dioxide being transported from the tissues towards the alveolus for exchange in three different ways. As bicarbonate, major amount 70%, 7% in the form of carbonic acid in dissolved state, and 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported as carbamino compound in combination with what is called the amino acid of hemoglobin. Now, actually, the factor which normally favors the binding of carbon dioxide with the just actually with the hemoglobin is related to the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. This is the major factor responsible for binding of carbon dioxide with hemoglobin. But Another major factors normally which will affect the binding of carbon dioxide with the hemoglobin is nothing but the partial pressure of oxygen. You know that what in the lungs where the PO2 is high, the carbon dioxide never binds with what is called hemoglobin. And in the tissues where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is higher, it readily combines with the hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin. So, factor number one responsible for binding of carbon dioxide is carbon dioxide, and that binding is also affected by the partial pressure of oxygen, and that is normally ready to bind with hemoglobin at place where you have the PO2 is high when PO2 PCO2 is less. Now, the same one what I repeated here I represented. So in the tissues where PCO2 is high and the partial pressure of oxygen is low, so what will happen? More binding of carbon dioxide happens. As there is more carbon dioxide at the tissue level and less PO2, then carbon dioxide is readily combining with what is called the hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin. But in the lungs or in the alveoli, where the PCO2 is low, in the alveoli, we have the PCO2 is low. Whereas the PO2 is always high, partial pressure of oxygen is always higher than alveolus, which results in the dissociation of carbon dioxide from that is what's called hemoglobin or from that is what is called carbaminohemoglobin, and that one being released out as carbon dioxide. So this is actually these are the two factors. One factor, the partial pressure of oxygen that will affect the binding of carbon dioxide. Another factor is nothing but the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. It favors normally when its partial pressure is higher, it favors the binding of that is what is called carbon dioxide. So PCO is nothing but the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So we are expressing everything actually in the form of partial pressure of oxygen or partial pressure of carbon dioxide. I mentioned already just that PCO to the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the atmospheric pressure is 0.3 millimeter mercury. In the deoxygen blood, we have 45. In the oxygen blood, it is about just 40 millimeter mercury. So PCO is nothing but the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. And PO is nothing but the partial pressure of oxygen. So we are expressing the concentration in terms of what is called either PCO2 or PO2 for the two different gases, namely carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay. Now, there is one enzyme, what we have, that is carbonic anhydrase. This is the enzyme normally found abundant in RBC and also found in least concentration and low concentration, just in low amount in the plasma too. So this is the enzyme which is considered as the fastest enzyme in the enzyme world. Fastest enzyme in the enzyme world. For example, this enzyme is responsible for creating a biochemical reaction, nothing but actually the formation of carbonic acid from water and carbon dioxide. This is a reaction. As soon as carbon dioxide enters into the plasma or inside the RBC, it combines with water to form carbonic acid. This reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. It also causes the reversible reaction of this one at the alveolar space. So, in the tissue level, as soon as the carbon dioxide enters into the blood, it favors the formation of carbonic acid. And at the alveolar level, it favors the reversible reaction, favoring the formation or the dissociation of carbonic acid to form carbon dioxide and water, so that carbon dioxide will be eliminated. Now, we already seen about the role of this carbonic anhydrase and the enzymes in the concept of metabolism lesson. Now, in the absence of this carbonic anhydrase, the number of carbonic acid molecules formed is about only 200 per hour, per 1 hour. The number of carbonic acid molecules formed in the absence of this enzyme. But when this enzyme is present, we have received nearly 600,000 molecules of carbonic acid. You see that one that is being catalyzed by the enzyme. So this enzyme accelerates the rate of reaction. So it accelerates the reaction by 10 million times. That's why it's called the fastest enzyme in the enzyme world. So you see that one in the absence of enzyme, we receive only 200. molecules per hour, but in the presence of enzyme, we receive 600,000 molecules of carbonic acid per second, not per hour. So that is why it's called the fastest enzyme as it increases the rate of reaction here 10 million times. So the carbonic anhydrase is the enzyme responsible for the formation of carbonic acid and its dissociation to form bicarbonates as well as hydrogen ions, and also favoring the formation and the dissociation of carbonic acid to form carbon dioxide and water at the alveolar level. So these are all the different reactions made by this carbonic anhydrase, mostly abundant in the RBC. Don't forget, it is abundant in the RBC, but little amount is also present in the plasma. Now, I mentioned here the reaction. So this enzyme facilitates the following reaction in both directions. So once carbon dioxide enters into the plasma or inside the RBC carrying of water, it combines with water to form carbonic acid. So it is a weak acid. So it is unstable. It immediately dissociates to form bicarbonates as well as hydrogen ions. So now this bicarbonate combines with the sodium to form sodium bicarbonate. So carbon dioxide is trapped as bicarbonate at the tissue level and transported to the alveolus where it is being released as carbon dioxide. So the reversible reaction. So this is the reaction happening where in the tissue level. So the forward reaction is taking place at the tissue level. Carbon dioxide combines with the water to form carbonic acid, which immediately dissociates to form bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. And in the lungs or the alveolar surface, once again the bicarbonates and hydrogen ions combine together form carbonic acid, which dissociates to form carbon dioxide and water. Now this carbon dioxide is eliminated or expelled out during expiration process. This is what is happening. So all these, that is forward and reversible reactions, are being done only by carbonic anhydrase, the same enzyme, the fastest enzyme in the world. Now, what is happening during the transport? I mentioned already we have the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high at the tissue level. So that what will happen? Carbon dioxide diffuses into the blood, either into the plasma, first into the plasma and then into the organs. And what will happen there? We have already mentioned just it is a weak acid, the carbonic acid. It immediately dissociates formed bicarbonate and hydrogen. But at the alveolar site, what will happen where the PCO2 is low? The reaction proceeds in the opposite direction. That is, once again, the bicarbonate and hydrogen ions combine together for carbonic acid. The carbonic acid now splits into, not dissociates, splits into carbon dioxide and water, so that carbon dioxide is being expelled out. So here I would like to say one phenomenon, what is called Hamburger phenomenon, related to the transport of carbon dioxide. Bohr effect is related to the transport of oxygen, the formation of oxyhemoglobin. So actually the oxyhemoglobin formation, the just right, the binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin normally decreases when the temperature is high, when the hydrogen ion concentration is high, or we have what is called just high acidity or low pH. And the opposite one occurs in the reversible direction at the alveolar level, and that is called the Bohr effect with reference to the oxygen carrying capacity or binding capacity of hemoglobin. Now here, as a result of transport of carbon dioxide, we have to explain one phenomenon. So what is called Hamburger phenomenon or Hamburger effect? A Hamburger effect. Hamburger effect. It's also called as chloride shift. It's also called as chloride shift. What is chloride shift? Now we have just inside the RBC, this is RBC. We have the formation of carbonic acid from water and carbon dioxide. It immediately dissociates to form what is called hydrogen ion plus bicarbonate ion. Once the RBC cytoplasm is loaded with bicarbonate ions, normally it is bound with water. So here inside we have potassium ions and then outside we have sodium ions. This is what we have normally in the plasma. Now this is plasma and this one RBC. Once bicarbonate is formed, once actually the cell is laden with bicarbonate, the bicarbonate is able to move out of RBC. So now the bicarbonate moves out. For every bicarbonate ion that moves out, there is one anion, namely the chloride. It enters into the orbits to maintain what is called the electrostatic neutrality. So for every bicarbonate that moves out, one chloride enters into it to maintain electrostatic neutrality. This phenomenon is called what is known as chloride shift or Hamburger phenomenon or Hamburger's effect. So, and normally inside once the chloride enters, it combines with the potassium, remains as potassium chloride, and the bicarbonate combines with the sodium to form sodium bicarbonate. As soon as they reach, all these ions, as soon as they reach what is called the alveolar surface, where the reversible reaction occurs because of the conditions available. Now the bicarbonates actually once again moving inside and the chloride is moving out. And the bicarbonates join with the hydrogen ion to form the carbonic acid. And now the reaction is directed towards the splitting of carbonic acid to form bicarbonate and hydrogen because of the medium available at the alveolar surface. And this is what we can say Hamburger effect or chloride shift. So we have to consider one thing, or we have to just remember one thing. So the chloride content of the RBC increases when the blood has become deoxygenated. So the deoxygenated blood, you know that it contains more carbon dioxide. That is why we have the formation of more carbonic acid inside the RBC as well as outside. So actually the content of chloride or the chloride concentration increases inside the RBC when the blood becomes deoxygenated, or we can say another way. So in the deoxygenated blood, the chloride content of the RBC is higher when compared to, that is what is called the oxygenated blood. So all these things are related to the transport of carbon dioxide, and that phenomenon is called Hamburger effect or chloride shift. Now, just what will happen, just this is the thing happening. So normally carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate. On reaching the lungs, the bicarbonate ions enter into the RBC, once again combines with hydrogen ions to form carbonic acid. Now the medium favors the splitting of carbonic acid into carbon dioxide and water. Now carbon dioxide is expelled out. So this is the mechanism. I mentioned already hemoglobin is acting as a buffer. So now actually we have received the hydrogen ions. The newly arrived hydrogen ions are buffered by hemoglobin. Now the hemoglobin combines with the hydrogen ions so that it forms what is called so-called reduced hemoglobin. So-called, not actually, so-called reduced hemoglobin. And what will happen now? The hydrogen ions are buffered. Otherwise, what will happen? The hydrogen ion concentration of the blood increases. The pH will increase from just actually the normal pH of the blood is 7.2 to 7.6. Average is about 7.4 or 7.35. The pH will increase. That will affect the various physiological activities. That is being prevented because of that what is called the buffering capacity of hemoglobin. The newly arrived hydrogen ions are buffered by hemoglobin in this manner, so that there is no increase in pH. Sorry, there is no increase in hydrogen ion concentration and decrease in pH. So whenever the hydrogen ion concentration increases, you know that when the solution becomes acidic, in an acidic medium the pH decreases. So highly concentrated acids have low pH when compared to the diluted acids. So I mentioned already, now the carbon dioxide is trapped as bicarbonate at the tissue level and transported to the alveolus and is released out as carbon dioxide. This is what is happening. So thus carbon dioxide trapped as bicarbonate, there is nothing but actually the carbonic acid dissociates to form bicarbonate. That is why I am using the word carbon dioxide trapped as bicarbonate at the tissue level and transported to the alveoli is now released out as carbon dioxide. I mentioned already 100 ml of oxygenated blood, 100 ml of oxygenated blood delivers 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues. Not all the 19.4 ml of oxygen being delivered to the tissues, only 5 ml of oxygen alone being delivered by 100 ml of oxygenated blood. The same manner here also. The 100 ml of deoxygen blood, every 100 ml of deoxygen blood, it delivers only 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveolus. So every 100 ml of oxygen in blood delivers 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues. Here, every 100 ml of the oxygen in blood delivers 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveolus, primarily the expeller. So remember these values. How much amount of not all the carbon dioxide being delivered to the alveolus. Similarly, not all the oxygen content being delivered to the tissues when oxygen in blood delivers oxygen. So I mentioned already the total capacity of oxygen carrying capacity. The oxygen carrying capacity of blood is about, you know that what I mentioned earlier, about 19.4 ml. Just the total capacity we can say 20 ml or 20 cc per 100 cc. So out of this 19.4 ml, only 5 ml of oxygen is allowed to be delivered to the tissues. So these are all some of the criteria related to. So also we have Haldane effect. Another effect, what we can say, Haldane effect. This is nothing but actually the formation of oxyhemoglobin and its dissociation. The effect of formation of oxyhemoglobin and its dissociation on the transport of carbon dioxide. That is also we can say Haldane effect. So it is the oxygen concentration or the partial pressure of oxygen and its formation as oxyhemoglobin will affect or will just favor, just its dissociation favors the transport of carbon dioxide. Its association normally just reduces the carbon dioxide transport. So that phenomenon is called Haldane effect. So anyway, Haldane effect is nothing but the effect of formation of oxyhemoglobin or its dissociation on carbon dioxide transport. That is another one what is called the Haldane effect. That's enough for your level. Now let us go for how far the various events of respiration has been controlled, the regulation of respiration. So mostly the respiratory rhythm is maintained by the nervous regulation. It is maintained and moderated by what is called the nervous system or the neural system. In addition to that one, we also have certain chemical sensitive areas found in the brain as well as in the carotid artery. They are also normally helping the neural system in regulating the respiratory rhythm. So how far the respiratory rhythm is controlled? What are the centers for controlling the respiratory rhythm? So mainly by the neural system found in the brain. Now the controlling center mainly located in the medulla oblongata, and that center is called respiratory rhythm center. The breathing center or respiratory rhythm center is normally located in the medulla oblongata region. And this is the primary center responsible for just actually it includes both the inspiratory and expiratory centers, and both the centers together call as a respiratory rhythm center, as we have two processes, respiration and then what is called inspiration and expiration. And that's why we have two regions in the medulla region for controlling the inspiration and expiration, together called as a respiratory rhythm center. Then this is the center normally controls the respiratory process. And in addition to that one, just in the pons cerebelli. So in the medulla, we have inspiratory and expiratory centers. The center for inspiration, the center for expiration. And in addition to these two centers, together called as what is called respiratory rhythm center, another center is there for regulating the activities of two centers, regulating the activities of these two centers, namely that is pneumotaxic center located in the pons region. Pneumotaxic center is located in the pons region, and that can normally moderate the functions of respiratory rhythm center by just integrating them. For example, during inspiration. Now, actually, the impulses are carried from the inspiratory center to the pneumotaxic center, so that the pneumotaxic center is activated. The pneumotaxic center immediately sends impulses to the inspiratory center of the medulla. Now, the inspiratory center is activated in response to the signal from the pneumotaxic center. As a result, what will happen now? The expiratory process is increased and the inspiratory process is being suppressed. So these are all the cyclic events normally happening. This is because of the regions found in the brain. Inspiratory center, expiratory center together form the respiratory rhythm center found in the medulla. And these two are being coordinated, synchronized by another center, what is called pneumotaxic center found in the pons. So this is a center that can moderate the functions of respiratory rhythm center. So normally the neural signal from the center can reduce the rate or the time of what is called inspiration. So when the inspiration has, I mentioned already, you see that one. So once the expiratory process has been initiated by the signal from the pneumotaxic center, ultimately this center reduces the time, the duration of the inspiration process, and thereby the respiratory rate has been modified. This is what is happening. So the signal from this what is called pneumotaxic center normally reduces the duration of the inspiration and activating what is called the expiration process by stimulating the expiratory center. This is what is happening. So all these three centers are integrated together to form what is called the respiratory rhythm center. Normally, the two centers together called respiratory rhythm center found in the pons, and these two centers are being synchronized or integrated for their activities by means of pneumotaxic center. So this is what is called a nervous control. Medulla oblongata and the pons together taking part in breathing control. And what we have the chemical control. So near these pons, near this what is called the medulla oblongata, we have a chemosensitive area. Where are they present? Normally situated normally adjacent to the rhythm center, namely the medulla oblongata. There is a chemosensitive area in the medulla which is normally found near, that is what is called the medulla oblongata, the what is called the respiratory rhythm center. And these areas, what is called the chemosensitive areas, are highly sensitive to carbon dioxide and hydrogen concentration. Once the concentration of hydrogen as well as carbon dioxide increases and they stimulate these chemosensitive area, immediately what will happen, these sensitive areas send signals to the respiratory rhythm center which modifies or make necessary adjustments to alter the respiratory process so that these two substances be eliminated in a simple manner through what is called the alveolus or through the alveoli. This is what is happening. Once actually these centers are stimulated by increased carbon dioxide concentration, hydrogen ion concentration, they send signal to the respiratory rhythm center, and now the respiratory rhythm center makes some adjustments to modify the respiratory process and also making adjustments for the elimination of carbon dioxide and hydrogen. That is about the chemical control. And also we have some chemoreceptor cells located. They're also doing the function of chemical control. And they are found actually in the carotid artery, the one which supplies blood to the brain, and also in the left aortic arch. See, in the case of mammals, you know that one we have the left aortic arch. In the case of birds, we have right aortic arch. So, some chemoreceptor cells are located in the carotid artery, the place normally we can say carotid sinus. There is one space, a swelling, a slight swelling in the carotid artery, the one which supplies blood to the brain, and also the aortic arch. These chemoreceptor cells also have the ability of actually perceiving the stimuli related to increase in carbon dioxide concentration and hydrogen ion concentration. Once they are stimulated, they send signals to the respiratory rhythm centers. Now the respiratory rhythm center just makes some remedial actions or adjustments to alter the respiratory process. So in this manner, we have actually the respiratory rhythm is controlled because of both, that is what is called the nervous control as well as the chemical control. Now, normally the respiratory system, so aortic arch is see that one normally from the heart. We have the aorta is making its origin from what is called the left ventricle. This is what is called aorta. This is what is called aorta. As soon as it leaves from the heart, it forms an arch, and this arch is called aortic arch. This arch. Now, in the case of how can you differentiate the heart of a bird and that of mammal? So, in the case of actually mammals, the aortic arch is normally present on the left side. So, this is left aortic arch. In mammals, you have the left aortic arch. So, the aorta that is leaving from the heart becomes arch on the left side. But in the case of birds, the aortic arch becomes actually arch on the right side. So this is called right aortic arch, by which we can just identify which is the which is both hearts and which is actually the mammalian heart. So this is nothing but the arching of aorta, that is called aortic arch. The largest blood vessel, the one which supplies blood to various parts of the body, namely the oxygenated blood. Okay, now. So, but actually, the carbon dioxide is normally responsible in making the regulation of the respiration. But the role of oxygen in regulating the respiratory process is insignificant. That is, we see that on the role of oxygen in the regulation of respiratory rhythm is insignificant. So, it is a carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration, which is the resultant product of carbon dioxide when soluble in water, when dissolved in water, and these two factors are normally responsible for regulating the respiratory rhythm. But oxygen's role in regulating the respiratory rhythm is less significant in compared to carbon dioxide and hydrogen concentration. Now another control, Herring-Brewer reflex, after the name of the two persons. Now there are certain receptors are found in the walls of the brain, in the walls of so there are receptors are found in the walls of bronchi and bronchioles. These receptors can be stimulated while stretching. While stretching, they are stimulated by the stretching of the bronchi or bronchioles. That is why they are called stretch receptors, also called Herring-Brewer receptors. These receptors normally can be stimulated by the stretching of bronchi or bronchioles or at the height of inspiration. So, at the height of inspiration, at maximum inspiration, what will happen? We have just the ballooning of the lungs, it's being stretched. So also the bronchi and bronchioles. So the stretching of the alveoli, the stretching of the bronchi, the bronchioles stimulate these receptors, mainly the stretch receptors. So that they send impulses to the medulla oblongata through the depressor branch of vagus nerve. It is a vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, that carries the stimulus from the stretch receptors to the brain. So then what will happen? The expiratory process is activated and the inspiratory process is suppressed. That is what is called Herring-Brewer reflex. And now it is considered as a protective mechanism. The Herring-Brewer reflex is considered a protective mechanism for preventing excessive inflation of the lungs. Excessive inflation of the lungs. So, how? By reducing the inspiratory. So, the Herring-Brewer reflex, normally the stretch receptors are stimulated. They carry the impulses through the 10th cranial nerve through a depressor branch, what is called the vagus nerve branch, to the respiratory rhythm center, so that it is being stimulated. As a result, the expiratory process is initiated and the inspiratory process is suppressed. So, by which we can prevent the excessive inflation of what is called the lungs. So, by way of reducing what is called the inspiratory time, the duration. So, that is a protective mechanism. Now we have to know some of the respiratory disorders, not much, only allergic. One, asthma. See that one, it is a kind of allergic reaction. It is mediated, the hypersensitivity. So the manifestation of allergic reaction is asthma because of the dust allergy. So what will happen here? The inflammation of the bronchi and bronchioles occur, leading to just what is called difficulty in breathing, causing wheezing, more rapid breathing. This is because of the inflammation of the bronchi and bronchioles, ultimately causing the wheezing, and that is called asthma, a kind of manifestation of allergy or hypersensitivity to dust. Then emphysema. So the wall of the alveolus is formed of single layer of epithelial cells. Sometimes because of the ballooning of the alveolus, what will happen there? Cells of squamous epithelium being damaged, thereby reducing the respiratory surface, namely thereby reducing the alveolar surface. It is normally possible because of the chronic conditions, it is a chronic disorder. It's not a simple one happening all of a sudden. It is a chronic disorder. This is due to smoking. The nicotine present in the smoke normally, a benzopyrene present in the smoke normally causes damage to the alveolar epithelium, thereby reducing the respiratory surface, ultimately emphysema. It is always actually in coordination with, it is associated with what is called the bronchitis. So normally bronchitis and emphysema together cause cold. The inflammation of the bronchi is called bronchitis. So bronchitis is associated with the emphysema another obstructive disease, and both together called as chronic obstructive lung disease, or also called COAD, chronic obstructive airway disease, chronic obstructive lung disease, or chronic obstructive airway disease. This is nothing with a combination of emphysema as well as there is a bronchitis. Then, occupational respiratory disease, or else we can say occupational hazard. So normally what will happen? There are certain diseases which develop in certain people who are exposed to dust or air pollutants. And these are all together called pneumoconiasis. And these dust or pollutants or air pollutants are generated by the industries or the places where they are working. So simply we can say any disease which is developed because of their job, then it is called occupational respiratory disease or occupational hazard, which is normally developed because of what is called the job. That job causes certain diseases, that is called occupational respiratory disorders, as they affect what is called the respiratory system. Now, generally the dust or pollutants together called pneumonia. So any disease, any occupational disease which is caused because of the air pollutants or dust together called pneumoconiasis, and that is normally the pollutants or dust are generated by the industries or what is called the places where they are working. So any disease which is developed because of the job they are doing. Now one such disease what we have, black lung disease. So black lung disease is an example for occupational disease or occupational hazard. So occupational respiratory disorder. So it is developed normally in the case of people who are exposed to. So this is because of dust or pollutants to which the people are exposed, and those dust which are generated by what is called the grinding or stone breaking industries. So when people are exposed, long exposure to such dust generated by the grinding or stone breaking industry, what we call this one the quarries and also crushes, quarries and crushes. And they are the major source of these pollutants. The stone breaking industries, the grinding industries normally called, that the place where we have breaking the stones, quarries and crushes. And as a result of exposure to such what is called the dust released or generated by the grinding or stone breaking industries, and inflammation occurs in the case of such people, and that inflammation is called fibrosis. Nothing but the proliferation of the fibrous tissues form the lungs, and thus can lead to the disease what is called black lung disease. So black lung disease is an example for occupational respiratory disease caused because of the pollutants in the case of people who are exposed to such pollutants released in quarries. Simply we can say people working in quarries have developed the black lung disease. Black lung disease. So there is one question that people who actually live in quarries, working in quarries have developed a black lung disease. And what are the other types of the disorders caused because of working in a particular factory or particular industry? So we have occupational diseases are caused both by inorganic substances or inorganic air pollutants, also by means of organic air pollutants. So both inorganic and inorganic as well as organic air pollutants are responsible for causing the disease, namely the occupational disease. Here I listed some of the dust, inorganic dust responsible for causing diseases, occupational diseases. So people who are working in coal mines, they are exposed to coal dust and they have the respiratory disease. The name of the respiratory disease which is developed because of the coal dust, inorganic material, is called anthracosis. And similarly, people who are working in glass industry where silica being used. And now this silica, when they are exposed to silica, they develop an occupational hazard, and that is called silicosis. People working in glass industries, and here people working in coal mines. And similarly, those people who are working in asbestos industry, they develop a disease what is called asbestosis. Now, in Indian Constitution also, and now just there is a legal statement, a legal opinion also, and this is coming under the control of the legal opinion of the government. So asbestosis is under normally the law. So anybody who is developing the disease can be given some compensation. And similarly, people who are working in just what is called steel work, iron industries, they have developed siderosis disease. So these are all some of the disorders caused because of the inorganic dust. Similarly, people also develop some disorders for working in places where we have the organic dust. For example, cane fiber. People who are working in sugar industry where sugar being extracted from the cane. So the left out just fiber after sugar extraction is called bagasse. So and that fiber causes a disease, respiratory disorder, disease, what is called bagassosis. Then cotton dust. Cotton dust. People who are working in textile industry because of the cotton fiber, they have developed the disorder what is called dysinosis. People working in textile industry. And similar people working in tobacco industry, they have developed the disorder tobaccosis. And similarly in the just yard, where we are just actually yellowing or just separating the grains from the hay. So the hay or grain dust just from the yard and they exposed. And when the people are exposed to this one, they have developed some sort of problems in the lung disease, and that is called farmer's lung. So these are some of the disorders, occupational diseases, which are caused due to the pollutants, air pollutants. That's why we can say the air pollutant diseases. But here, because of working in a particular place and their job responsible for causing the disease, and all are considered as occupational respiratory disorders or simply occupational hazards.